Hello friends, in a video I published previously called Build Your Own Micro Drip Irrigation System for Your Balcony, I gave you a glimpse of the structure I have outside my window. In this video I'm going to show you how to build this hanging planter, that is, how I distribute the pots and the planters and the irrigation system so that it will be self-watering for at least 7 days. But before I show you my design and how I built it, I must talk to you about these hanging planters, the structure and the safety measures they have in place. This especially for my neighbors below that might believe something might fall on their heads. This iron structure doesn't weigh more than 7 kilograms. The total weight of planters, pots, light substrate and water shouldn't be over 26 kilograms, which is not very much. However, that is not a guarantee that this structure can't fall. For this reason, when you build something like this, you don't only need skilled labor, you also need different levels of safety to ensure this doesn't affect other people. Safety levels of this structure are in the integrity of an iron structure held together by welding is given by the law of probabilities. Although one welding can fail after some time due to rust or bad work, it's highly improbable that many welds may fail at the same time, up to a point that the whole section will fall apart. This probability is near zero as long as one examines the structure periodically to see if there are any rust points or any other failure, doing the repairs that may be necessary. If you stop taking care of the plants, that is, you stop supervising the structure, you must remove it. The way to hold all this structure to the wall consists of 4 bolts of 1/4 inch that go through the iron frame of this window. It's not welded on. The iron frame is part of the concrete walls and is in perfect conditions. It is also very improbable that all these bolts break or fall off at the same time. There is a Lifeline made of a 2mm steel cable capable of holding 40 kilograms and allows us to remove this structure without the risk of it falling by accident. Every planter is tied to the structure with a plasticized cable, so there is no risk it might fall over or fly off thanks to a hard wind or an earthquake. There are no small elements that can come off easily except for these small little bits of plastic or rubber that very difficult they would cause any damage if they fall off. My design basically consists of planters where we seal off the drains so we can collect a permanent volume of water, a pool of water about 2 centimeters high. And the pots that are placed inside the planters and on top of these rubber humps, so they remain above the water level, can absorb water thanks to these wicks that go into the soil and around the roots of the plants. The idea here is to have a space between the waterbed and the pot, so the roots receive air as well as water to ensure there is no excess water around the roots. This is a polyurethane foam floater that we must fix to this wire and then to the wall of the planter with a pair of wire guides so that it can act as an indicator for the level of water in the pool. With water in the pool, it should move up 1 or 2 centimeters. The top of the planter is an open surface where we will have much loss of water due to evaporation, so we have to cover it with a white acrylic sheet, where we have to cut out circles to fit the pots. As well, the acrylic will help to keep the pots in position above the level of the water. The drip watering system, which I showed you in a previous video, should supply drops to the bottom of the planter, drop by drop, to compensate the loss of water due to plant uptake, evaporation and any other loss. That balance is something we will have to find by experience and by checking the overflow. If the floater falls, we have to increase the drops. If we have a noticeable overflow, we must reduce the drops. When we reach that balance, we can infer how much water we need in our supply bottle and how fast it must be replenished. The watering system is a 5-litre container where we connect the microvalve and dripper I showed you in another video, supplying the water drop by drop to the plant. In fact, I'm going to need 2 microvalves and drippers, one to feed the 2-pot planter and the other for the 3-pot planter. Finally, I will need a drain so that I can regulate the flow of water with precision, ensuring all excess water above 2 centimeters leaves the planter and doesn't soak the soil and roots of the plants, causing rot and other issues. These drains must fall into a container where I can measure the loss and recover it if needed. These planters, called Respirator and Respirator brand, made in Peru, don't show what kind of plastic they are. Even the manufacturer's documents and the distributors only mention it as plastic. But I believe we can assume it is PVC. And trying to fix things with silicone on PVC is not very firm, as we know that PVC doesn't stick well with silicone. So, these drains are sealed with silicone. I will cover them by sticking pieces of PVC and using PVC adhesive, something that should last more. We cut a piece of PVC tubing of the right size, we heat it up over a flame or heat gun, squash it between 2 bits of wood, and it's ready to stick on the planter. After sandpapering both surfaces and cleaning with alcohol or white gas to remove any residues. Then we leave it there for at least 30 minutes. This floater that will show us the level of water in the planter must be held onto the planter wall by wire that will allow it to slide up and down. Silicone will not work well, so the wire guides must be tied through holes into the PVC. Twisting the wires will keep them in place better than silicone, because if the silicone comes off, the guides won't guide anything and the floater won't work. We have to stick these rubber humps in the planter to ensure the bottom of the pots stays above the water level. Here we must cut out the circles where we will place the pots. Both the centers of the circles and the centers of the rubber humps must coincide following the measurements of our pots. As I mentioned before, the watering system I'm going to use is from below, not from above. And it makes use of capillary action, a system we can find in heaters, paraffin heaters that have a wick inside them, and also with candles. The paraffin goes up the wick, and the flame is absorbing paraffin all the time. Here the same thing happens. the rope is inside the water, and the water climbs up looking for the driest spot. It moves up against the gravity up to a point inside the soil where we have the plants with their roots. Now, these wicks are sold, especially for plants. You find them on the internet all over the place. But I don't want to buy any. I want to make my own. So I made lots of tests using shoelaces and ropes, and as you can see there, and with these tests I have found out which are the best elements I can use as wicks, and I've also been able to calculate the amount of water that they absorb per hour. And I decided to use these two materials. This is a shoelace, and this is a bit of rope of cotton rope. This also has cotton, but also probably has a bit of plastic in it. This shoelace absorbs 1.23 milliliters per hour, and this rope absorbs 1.2 milliliters per hour. That is in theoretical conditions, in perfect theoretical conditions. Without the plant inside, without the earth, without the soil, without the sun hitting it. So we don't have the plant consuming water, we don't have evaporation from the sun, the heat, and so it probably is different when once we have all these planters out there in the sun. Then we'll have to modify the amount of water coming in drips with a micro valve. Now, I've calculated, with that calculation, theoretical calculation, I believe that the small planter will need 10 milliliters per hour with my micro valve, and the big planter 15 milliliters per hour. So, and I'm going to have two micro valves, each one will have a different flow of drops. So, we have our system, the structure. We only need to now connect the two levels. I believe the best thing we can do here is the overflow at 2 centimeters will pass water into the planters below. And we can do that with this pipe. We have to make sure it's very well sealed here in the planter, and it will go into the bottom planter in a hole in the cover. For sealing the top planter, we're going to use these grommets. We can also use a bit of silicone inside the grommet to make sure it's well sealed. And we have these, I don't know how you call these, but they're for passing cables into electric boxes. And the small one, the inside one, is perfect for the size of this tube. So I can insert it in the cover, and I don't have to seal it there or fix it there. If I want to move the bottom planter, I simply take the tube out, that will stay there, and I move the planter, fix it, clean it, or pick out the strawberries I want, so on, and then I put it back and I connect it again. The grommet has these measurements, so I need a 19mm bit so it fits precisely. Now, I have a bit, this one, it has 18mm diameter. So, if I'm able to get the grommet in there, it'll be nice and tight. If I can't get it in there, I'll have to open up the hole a bit more to 19mm. Okay, here we have the planters assembled as I planned, according to my design, but we have some issues that I didn't consider. For example, these tubes, these yellow tubes, they won't bend to get a perfect vertical drain. So it's obvious that instead of putting the drains on the side of the planter, I should have put it at the bottom, so it would fall directly down onto the planter below. That has forced me to put a 3-pot planter there and below the 3-pot planter on the other side, so we have a crisscross of the drains. The first level planters have to drain into that PVC pipe. It will take the water over to this container. However, I didn't consider that to install the container and then manage the water and the drains would require big acrobatics. And at my age, that's not a good idea. The idea of this hanging planter is that it should be simple, and having 2 levels is much too near my limits. So I've decided to remove those planters and use only the top level for plants and the first level for the container that receives the water from the drain. Well, that's it. In the first level, we have the container with excess water that may come out. And on the first level, the top level, here we have 2 planters, a big planter with 3 pots and a smaller planter with 2 pots. The container with water, that's a water supply, 2 lines of droppers, one giving me 15 milliliters per hour for the big planter and the other one giving 10 milliliters per hour for a small plant. Right now I don't have more plants, but this one, because I'm waiting for her to give children that I can plant in the other pots. And that will happen just April or May maybe. So I'm going to leave this video till here, and maybe in April, May I'll publish another video with how it's advancing. And that's it. I hope you like this video, and if you did, please remember, give it a thumbs up, share it, subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye bye.